That's the thing.
It's
that's
inside.
the thing with the Tim Pool invite. It's like, dude, I'm sorry. The idea, like, I am aware of multiple people who have died of this, who are either like, not necessarily close to me, but, friends of the family, or are close friends of my friends. I know of people who have been sick for months with this. And I have responsibilities outside myself. To go into a room, a closed room, with people that you are not absolutely sure have been taking things seriously, and even then it's scary, without masks, is literally the one thing that they say you should absolutely not do in the context of a pandemic. Are the odds high that anyone in that room has COVID? Not necessarily, but that's the thing, you don't know. And so it's ridiculous.
Didn't he just have a Proud Boy in studio? I mean, how serious was he taking it?
I don't know. I watched part of that Proud Boy interview, and it was pretty fascinating, because what Tim does is he spends the whole time talking about the details of certain events that take place there. And he seems to really read in to those. And that's where he holds the guy to account.
You mean take place there, like when they're having interactions in the streets?
When they're, when Gavin was doing his comedy show, where he was stabbing the mock stabbing the socialist or whatever it is. And just sort of all the details of, like, the camera took a picture of this and the cops did this and that. And then when the guy says stuff like, we're just American chauvinists. He's like, okay. And moves on, like, wait, let's tease that out. We're Western chauvinists. No examination of what does that mean for reals. And it's sort of interesting. So if you are watching, and there was something like, 50,000 people on his live stream.
Jesus Christ.
These are enormous numbers. If you are watching that and you're not terribly sophisticated, and I would imagine that his audience is particularly young, relatively speaking, young men is what I would imagine his demo is. I may be wrong about that, but I'd be surprised if I was. And Tim appears to be, not lobbing softballs, because he's saying, like, but wait a second. Didn't Jimmy Stevenson drive down, Maple Road on that? Well, you did. Yeah. Okay. So there you go. Maybe you guys shouldn't have been so close and trying to get into a fight. But it's all about, like, Antifa and Proud Boys. There's no ideology there. There's no ideas. There's no agendas. It's really just about, like, two different, gangs, or just two different people at your high school. Like, listen, I'm not aligned with Carrie's friend group, and I'm not aligned with Wendy's friend group. I just know that I'm watching, and, Carrie told a lie about, Andrea, and Andrea, meanwhile, was dating Kevin, who's, and it's like, it's all, that's why it's so effective, because
it appeals to your that us versus them. It appeals to a very male tendency, and I think men in particular. It
appeals to the drama that you go through in high school.
But also it's not even just that. There is a male component of being in a fight and the emotional side of this. Like, there is a very, it's almost like in the most basic raw elements of like human nature. When you watch these things, it's like when I listen to Joe Rogan, I'm like, this does not appeal to me. It just does not appeal to me. And then when I talk to friends that do, it's just like this bro thing that is very like how men are cultured, like hanging out with each other, talking shit, fighting around it's just a fight. It's just a natural fight. Like we're just having different opinions on air and we're just fighting it out. I don't know. That's very. I'm allergic to that, and I think a lot of women are cultured to be allergic to it, and that's why the audience reflects that.
I think that's
I don't know.
True.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but
well, no, I know. I think that's absolutely true. But I guess what I'm suggesting is that this is the way that Tim projects himself as being some type of arbiter. Like he's like, no journalist will talk to you. He's talking to the head of the Proud Boys, and he's like, he opens up with this question like, "Are you a white supremacist?" And the guy who is of Cuban descent, I think he said maybe it was African and some indigenous Cuban descent. I don't know. But the guy's like, no, I mean, as you can see, I'm not even white. And there is no exploration of like, what's going on here? You guys, it started as a joke. And then what are you doing? Like, what exactly, like, what is it that you're doing? And there is no, he appears to be, I'm going to say interrogating, but he appears to be, sort of like inquisitive, but unbiased and this and that on some level, because all he's talking about is the mechanics of these guys getting into it at any point. Yeah. He is not talking about like, why do you exist? Like, why are you in my studio? What is it that you're presenting? What is like, if we were to just sort of say like, this is a battle between two different groups, is it completely just like you don't like each other? He makes it as if it's about high school, where it's like Carrie's friend group and, Brian's friend group. It's not ideological. It's just like they're just two different cliques. And which clique is better? Which clique is not? And that's it. There's no ideology. There's nothing. There's no agendas. It's just like two different friend cliques. And
beyond that, what do they stand to gain? That's my question. Exactly. Same thing on the left, by the way. We'll get to that later. What do you gain out of this position? If you're going to stand here on a show in front of 50,000 people, what are you making a case for?
Yes.
What are you arguing over?
And it really ultimately is just like, we're in the right.
Yeah.
And it's like, as opposed to the we're in the wrong, not ideological. And it's like, that's where it is. That's where he takes it. That's the terrain he takes it on. That this is just like two different groups of kids at school who are just like, which one is the, it's almost like, what the hell was the name of that one with the wax on, wax off, the Karate Kid. It's just like, which dojo has the good kids and which dojo has the bad kids? And that's it. It's not like this is an ideological battle and none of that gets in. It's sort of fascinating. However, when Tim Pool talks about Democrats and Joe Biden, you're not going to believe that how nefarious Joe Biden's plan for America is, Nomi. Check this out.
If Joe Biden wins, they'll take over all our cultural institutions. They'll put psychotic and insane definitions in our dictionary, and they will take over, and regular Americans will say, please, for the love of God, just leave me alone. And they never will. They'll never stop coming. They will take your job away. They will come for your parents. You will do something wrong. They'll fire your mom. They'll come to your house with fireworks and guns, and Americans will still just say, what? Please, just leave me alone. And that's how it is. Even in the Revolutionary War, most people, the largest majority of people, were non-initiated. There was a small faction saying no revolution. There was a larger faction saying revolution. And the bulk said, please just leave me alone. So long as we've been dealing with the psychotic cancel culture. Well, where are you to stand up at your job and tell your boss to shut up when he says, I'm going to put out this bland brand message that panders to these woke lunatics? Where are you to say, if you do that, I quit? They say, fine, quit. Okay, I will. And I'll go start my own company. Nowhere to be found. You're completely right. But at least I quit my job when I worked for Disney and they said, lie to the public. I said, fuck you.
Oh.
And I told them, cut my contract off. And they said, no. Welcome to the golden handcuffs, Tim. You got one more year under lock and key. And then I said, okay, well, I'm not going to do what you want. And then finally it came to August and I said, bye-bye. I'm going to go do my own thing. And guess what? It worked. So where the fuck is everybody?
Oh my God.
So I did 30 videos on Jussie Smollett.
Right. Well, he was, Now this is when he says Disney, Brendan, he's talking about Fusion, right?
Yeah, he's talking about Fusion. And when I joined, which was after Tim, it was majority owned by Univision at that time. It started as a joint venture between Univision and Disney, and then Disney saw that it was a mess, so they dropped out, and Univision bought out Disney's share. So he wasn't really working for Disney by the end of his contract, but it sounds cool.
Right. And it also, let's be clear, the only thing that he wouldn't have been able to do would probably be to go and work for a rival company at that point if he was under contract with them. Right. Yeah, I've been in those instances. He just didn't want to walk away from the hundreds of thousands of dollars they were paying him annually. And he was, it was also those golden handcuffs. But listen, the idea that Joe Biden is going to get in and there's going to be a cultural revolution. Yes, it is the case. I think that a lot of people don't want to get involved in politics. I don't know what his point is about the American Revolution. Is he saying that we should still be subjects to the British monarchy?
What was that?
Well, I think it's his argument is that, and this is the conservative argument, right? This is the reactionary argument. We do not want the structures of our society, the structure of power in society, to change at all, and we're going to make it hip anew to maintain old power structures. And we do not want any complaints about these power structures. We do not want any changes to these power structures. There is no doubt in my mind that a significant portion of the country, we don't know what it is, maybe it's 40%, maybe it's 45%, maybe it's a little bit more. Maybe it's 55%. I don't know. They don't turn out to vote, maybe. But that want to keep society static because they're happy with the way that it is. And
but they think they have no power and they feel disconnected from the electoral system. I mean, I just don't buy this argument. I think he's so wishy-washy. It's like, for such a capitalist, he really has a thing for the man. And it's almost like that's their strategies. Like, they want to ease into this disaffected, angry worker, pull him away from the left, and somehow convolute the argument towards goal. I don't even know what he was saying in the end, but it was like he made a point, then he stopped and he went crazy, started talking about the Revolutionary War and golden handcuffs and, fireworks coming to your house. What? But he eases them in with this anger towards.
There's an anti-authority and anti-establishmentarian perspective that is, I share myself. I don't I don't like having a boss. We're doing a syndication deal with Peacock right now, and they're not my boss. They, the only change. They said, if you want to do this, you need to make the show 55 minutes that you present to us. And so I do a couple of, small breaks, but that's it. And even that, believe me, it's not, I have problems with, but there's no control there. I understand being allergic to authority. I understand being allergic to the establishment, but when it is untethered from any type of agenda, it's useless. And when that agenda is actually to maintain the status quo, right? Like, he doesn't have a problem with Disney controlling a huge portion of our media. He doesn't have a problem with massive corporate power. He has a problem with Disney being disingenuously woke.
And telling him what to do.
Well, but
it's okay. He can just start his own company and compete with Disney. It's just so easy.
Well, and he did. And like I say, I am sympathetic to the idea of being anti-authoritarian. Like, I don't like the idea of having a boss and that boss saying to me, you're going to do it this way or you're not going to get paid. And that's why I don't have a boss. That's why I don't have a boss. And particularly, we're all fortunate in this space that we can do that. And sometimes it takes a long time for it to go. Sometimes you got to get lucky. It's not available to everybody, without a doubt. But to critique Disney exclusively because of their saccharine wokeness, which I think, sure, yes, saccharine wokeness, I don't particularly care for. But what you're doing is you're hiding the ball. You're basically obfuscating what the real problem with a corporation like that is. Which is that they have undue influence within our society and over workers. Period.
Right.
And every corporation like them, and they set their agenda on their various platforms to promote that. It's not that they're the saccharine wokeness. That's just one of the veneers that they use to get through the day.
Yeah, it's annoying because it obscures, not because of itself.
Exactly. It is just like, and people make this mistake. It obscures the source of power. It is like what Alex Jones does, not in format. And people get confused about this. It hides the ball.
It's the same thing Trump does when he's like, the Mexicans are taking your jobs. No, it's the system. But what I love is how he then he flips it on Biden, as if under Biden, this corporate structure, which, I'm not saying that it would change for the better. Maybe it will. I am hoping so. But he plants the blame back towards the Democrats. And that is extraordinarily disingenuous Disney's even like conservative. They have conservative roots. There's a whole other set of issues there with Disney specifically.
Yeah, anti-communist Walt Disney, basically.
And also, let's if you want to sort of, dissect what he's saying about Biden, right? Because Biden has given no indication, Biden's entire campaign has been drawn upon the premise that, I'm the guy who's not going to change much. If you're worried about wokeness, if wokeness is why you were voting for a Democrat, Joe Biden would be the last guy you would have voted for, right? Because everybody's going to be corn pop, whatever it is that he was saying. What he's, and the idea is Joe Biden, Obama really had to sit on him during the 8 years that they were in office.
Gay marriage, one slip up.
Gonna try it, change it. Come on, man. Let me come on, free love, whatever it is that he thinks he's going to do. Joe Biden's the last guy who you would imagine is going to promote this agenda. Here is Tim Pool platforming the Proud Boys guys to explain that they're not violent and they didn't harass Vic Berger.
If you show me exactly right there where he's calling for violence and it's in context, then yeah, fine. But I've never seen it. I've never seen that he's directly. Vic Berger makes these videos that make him seem like this demon. Right?
Yeah, so I understand a lot of those were pulled out of context. I've actually gone through a list of where the clips came from.
Oh, here, perfect example. We're like, all right, you know what we're gonna do after getting doxxed so much? We're gonna find their addresses. And we're gonna, let's do it. And we go like that, and we pull up all the information, all their addresses, and we sit there together, and we're like, all right, what are we gonna do with this? And we're like, wait, what are we gonna do with that?
You can't do anything.
Are we gonna we're gonna show up at the house?
That happened though, didn't it?
Do we knock? Yeah, one of our guys got pissed off at Vic Berger and knocked in his house and asked him to not do that anymore.
Jesus Christ.
It was like, hey, Vic, can you stop doing this, please? And Vic blew his lid, but
wow.
There's nothing that we can do. You'll never find us go to a house and
he definitely
break a window.
Should not have gone to Vic Berger's house.
He shouldn't have gone to Vic Berger's house, but regardless, the thing is, yes, but if you're knocking on somebody's door, it's very old school to do that. But he is an older gentleman, but you knock on somebody's door and you ask for sugar. You're like, hey, can you turn the music down? And that's basically what the conversation was.
Oh my God. Or he'd be back.
That's a prime example there, right? You shouldn't have gone. Well, no, this is not you're lying about it. You sent somebody down there to intimidate somebody who's a critic of yours online. Like, and what's going on here? And Tim doesn't, it's just like, you shouldn't have done it. See, I was harsh on them. I said you shouldn't have done it. Well, it was a mistake. Won't do it again.
It was kind of old school, though.
It was old school. Right.
Old school
It is
meaning,
old school.
what do you mean? Like going to somebody's house?
Like people can knock on your door and like, can I have some sugar? People
Yeah,
just
it's
usually
like
text now. But this was like one of those things where they
harassment,
show up at your door and say, we know where you live. We know where your kids are. In fact, I've driven down here 3 hours from Massachusetts to make it clear we know where you live and where your kids are.
Everybody should watch and share Vic Berger's videos on the Proud Boys.
Absolutely.
Then, yeah, Gavin has called for violence. Of course he has.
Has
He's
Vic
glorified.
Berger gotten a restraining order against him?
What's that?
Has he gotten a restraining order
I
against
don't
them?
know. I don't know what happened with that. That's a good question.
Sounds like.
But there it is. I mean, this stuff, that's how stuff gets whitewashed, folks.
Mafia intimidation. You want to talk about old school? That's literally what that is.
Yes.
You know where you live.
We
Here's
know
a
where
fish
you live.
head. At least they were more
Nice family you got here.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Beautiful daughter.